Liberty in our lifetimes in a free state of our own. That's the vision. That's the dream. We are building it in New Hampshire. I'm Eric Brakey, your host and renegade statesman for the Porcupine Report. Welcome to your source for porcupine news and free-range conversation on matters of liberty. All right, let's hop into the show. Hey there, all you porcupines. Welcome to episode 66 of the Porcupine Report. I am, as always, your host, your renegade statesman, your executive director of the New Hampshire Free State Project, coming to you for another episode like we do every single Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. on Facebook, on X, on YouTube, on Spotify, on all your favorite podcasting platforms, wherever you're following this show. Thank you so much. Please be sure to like, follow, subscribe, share, retweet, whatever makes sense for whatever platform you're on. Leave comments, leave reviews if you're able to. It certainly helps us spread our reach, and share the show with your friends. They're going to appreciate it. I mean, presuming your friends like liberty. If your friends are statists, maybe this isn't the right show for them, or maybe they're on the cusp and ready to have a great awakening and realize that liberty's the way. And maybe the show today puts them over the edge. I don't know. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. I don't know. Anyway, share it with your friends. It's much appreciated. And I do want to note that we are, as of the time that this episode releases, we are 12 days away from the 22nd annual Porcupine Freedom Festival, PorcFest. We are having we're very excited. We got great speakers. I've been telling you about all the great speakers that are coming out. Scott Horton, we've got Connor Boyack, Joel Salatin, so many, many more. But one speaker that we got the opportunity to announce since the publication of the last week's episode, so hasn't been aired here yet on the Porcupine Report, is I'll be telling you about in just a moment. Before we get there, because that's going to be our topic of conversation for today. Before we get there, I do want to mention to you that tickets are moving. We've sold over 1,100 tickets, and very, very great place to be. We're going to have a really great showing for PorcFest this year, and I'm very glad that about 20% of ticket sales have gone to kids, because families are coming to PorcFest, because PorcFest is a family-friendly freedom festival. And our family programming grows every single year with Porcupines. Connor Boyack, author of the Tuttle Twins, will be personally reading one of his books to the kids. We're going to have our professional puppet show. We're going to have an animal show where kids get to meet a real porcupine. I myself even will be doing a mock legislature with the older kids, 10 to 17, where they get to go through the process, how a bill becomes a law. They'll get to submit bills, form political parties, elect a Speaker of the House, and they can, get into it as much as they want, cutting corrupt deals, just like a real legislature does. We had a lot of fun last year, and the Porcupine legislature is coming back. So families are welcome at PorcFest. And I do note that, every single episode that we release, we get a floor of about maybe 2,000. That's kind of on the low end. About 2,000 people are watching every single episode that we put out, which is great. And we're having a great turnout. 1,100 tickets have been sold, but that means about half of the audience for this show has not yet gotten a ticket to PorcFest. And I'm just telling you as a friend, you're not going to want to miss this. This is going to be a great one this year. Come out and taste the revolution that's brewing in the live free or die state of New Hampshire. We would love to have you. So get your tickets at porcfest.com. That's pork with a C, not a K. And as a gift to you from me, because I appreciate you being in our audience for the show, take 10% off the ticket price by using my discount code Granite Gulch. What is the Granite Gulch? It's like Galt's Gulch, but in New Hampshire. That's what we're building. Granite Gulch, 10% off your PorcFest tickets. And I would love to see you there. It's not too late. Not too late. Tent camping sites are sold out. The motel is sold out, but there are still RV sites available, and you can pitch a tent at an RV site if you like, or there are plenty of opportunities to stay off the campgrounds if you prefer. There's other lodging in the area. You can learn more all about that at porcfest.com while you get your tickets. So go for it. All right. And of course, what I was going to mention, the big speaker that we just recently announced is coming to PorcFest is, well, I could say it or I could let you see it. So our producer, Renita, produced a fantastic, it's about 2 minutes long, announcement video about who is joining us at PorcFest. And so I'd love to play that for all of you right now, and then we're going to get into it. I'll welcome our guest, and we'll talk more about what's happening at PorcFest this year. So Renita, let's run the video.
This case will impact which way we go and what kind of future we're going to have.
This is something very real at stake here.
Of course, we're talking about Ross Ulbricht, who is the person who's sitting in a prison cell. He's been sitting in there for over 2,000 days.
We are Ross.
I will immediately investigate this when I become president.
I wasn't forgotten. I knew someday it would be over and my family would still be there.
Free Ross.
Beautiful. Thank you, as always, to our producer, Renita, for putting that together. And that's the news. Ross Ulbricht is joining us this year at the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which is, well, it's historic because PorcFest and the folks in the Free State movement were among the very earliest adopters for the Free Ross cause. As the granite cradle of crypto, were the earliest pioneers for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Were very much established in the Free State movement because of the ideological challenge it posed to central bankers' control of our monetary system. When Ross was imprisoned for basically creating a website where people could buy and sell voluntarily goods with money that the federal government doesn't control. Well, that struck a lot of people very wrong here in the Free State of New Hampshire. And at PorcFest for the last decade, Lynn Ulbricht, the mother of Ross Ulbricht, has been coming and building support. And this movement has a very soft place in our heart for Lynn Ulbricht and for Ross Ulbricht. And it seemed like a hopeless cause for so long, and yet so many people pitched in and persisted. And I think one of the great things about the fact that Ross is now free is the fact that we all know that we all played our own parts in this. And this was not the work of one person, but many people. And certainly some gave more than others. Lynn Ulbricht, of course, probably gave more than most. Well, here to join us today to talk about this is a returning guest to the program who will also be a speaker and joining us at PorcFest this year. The last time she was on this program was episode 20. So 46 episodes ago, 46 weeks ago. And the idea of Ross Ulbricht being free at that point was still a hypothetical. It had become a campaign promise by then candidate for President Donald Trump, and then a campaign promise fulfilled. So let's welcome to the show Martha Bueno, who is the co-founder, along with Lynn Ulbricht, of Mothers Against Cruel Sentencing. Martha, welcome back to the Porcupine Report.
Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely love that video. Renita definitely blew that out of the park. I was so glad he didn't come directly to me, because I was like tearing up. It was, wow, what a great video. What an amazing arc this journey has taken, right? Like wow, the Ross story went from a complete tragedy to now we're welcoming home our, I mean, I don't know if I speak for everybody, but our hero. Somebody who did something incredible. He built a free market website where people could buy and sell pretty much anything, as long as there was no stolen goods, no child pornography, no murder for hire. Like, there were rules. But what an amazing story that Ross, after almost 12 years behind bars, is out. He's free. He was pardoned by Donald Trump, which I think a lot of libertarians and anarchists, people who normally don't vote, and much less for the establishment, supported to have this moment. And what an amazing opportunity to have him at PorcFest. I mean, I'm super excited. This is going to be such a great PorcFest.
And I will say, when we made the announcement originally, we didn't know what day Ross was joining us. There were still some things to be worked out, but I can confirm for folks listening, Ross, we've heard he will be joining us on Saturday. So it'll be we certainly encourage people to join us for the whole week. PorcFest is a whole week-long experience of a free society that we all build together. And it'll be nice. Everything will build to up to Ross joining us on Saturday, and we'll look forward to hearing from him. And I'm sure folks will look forward to shaking his hand and welcoming him home. And Martha, you've been coming to PorcFest for years.
This is my third year.
Your third year. I know the last couple of years I've seen you there accompanying Lynn, and you both, and the Free Ross movement has been kind of your purpose in being there. I remember being at the Libertarian National Convention and seeing you there, and you were the one who was when Donald Trump was going up to speak, was making sure that everyone had in their hands a Free Ross sign so that Donald Trump could get the message loud and clear, like what people wanted and demanded. And it seems to have so many efforts of so many people culminating in one unambiguously good thing in the world, which is rarely something we can point to coming out of politics.
We used what we had, right? And I mean, like you said, it's so many good people. A lot of people don't like to hear it. A lot of people in the libertarian movement especially are a little upset at Angela McArdle, the former chair of the National Party. But, she did what she could with what we have. And we're really a voting bloc. And I think a lot of libertarians are upset that we, didn't support our candidate and instead sold herself, or however we want to talk about that. But so many people did so much, and she used what we had, our voting bloc, to get something good. And I think this is, I'm sure we'll get into more politics later, but this is something that libertarians can do if we're not in danger of winning the White House anytime soon. So at least for now, we can sway American politics and get things we want, get specific projects we want. Ross was a good example, but I think we can do this moving forward. And, I think that this kind of cemented libertarians in American politics. Before, we didn't even have a seat at the table, and now we do. And I think that's a huge thing for us libertarians. So, I was very instrumental in getting a Free Ross sign in everybody's hands. I feel very authoritarian that day. I was like, what? You're not holding a sign? Hold this sign, it was not my...
I didn't see you threatening violence against anyone. It was
no violence.
It was forceful, but not a violation of the non-aggression principle, Martha.
It was definitely forceful. No violence, though. You're right. I used the power of my words.
Yeah.
But I think it's what we can do moving forward. I mean, hey, today was Ross. Hopefully tomorrow's a lot more people. I'd like to see a lot more people who are in prison for victimless crimes released. And that's what we're doing with Max too. Gonna keep this thing going.
Well, tell us more about Mothers Against Cruel Sentencing. So Ross is free, and I know you and Lynn, rather than saying, great, we're done, we got, this, we got Ross Ulbricht free. I mean, Lynn, I think you'd especially understand, like, she was there, like, fighting for her kid. And it would be easy to say, great, my kid is free of this corrupt system. Let's pack it up and go home. But I think there are many of us, particularly in the Free State movement, who recognize there are still many political prisoners who are being unjustly held, particularly for cryptocurrency, what the federal government said were crimes, but which I very much doubt. I very much am suspect to that. So what is motivating you? And I don't know to what degree you can speak for Lynn, but like to kind of continue on now that Ross is free to advocate for more individuals.
Yeah, so I'd love to take the credit. I mean, I feel like you're giving me so much credit. I'd love to take the credit for this, but this is 100% Lynn's thing. So for her, and what motivates me is Lynn. Honestly, Lynn is for those who haven't met her, she's just a force. She doesn't like when I use her age, but at an age where most people are looking towards retirement, Lynn got thrust into this, her son being charged with these horrible crimes, and then looking at 240 years or double life plus 40 years behind bars. So death sentence via cage. And, I think a lot of people don't know where to go from there. It certainly was the case for her. It's not like Lynn was an advocate before, she didn't have necessarily the tools to do this, but she has this determination. And she, while going through all of this, met so many people who helped her, but also people in prison themselves. When she'd go visit Ross, for example, so many families torn apart, people suffering because of these unjust laws that put in a lot of cases in people who have not committed a violent crime, people who in a lot of cases don't even have victims behind bars. And when Lynn was, the last time she went to the prison to see Ross, knowing that potentially he'd be pardoned the next time, people were like, bye, we wish you well, don't forget about us. And she was like, I can't forget about these people. These people, not everybody has a Lynn Ulbricht. Not everybody has the entire community she built. And how can we just turn our backs on those people? And I think, again, that's one of the things that I love the most about Lynn, that she is that person. She's that mother, but she's not just the mother to Ross. She's kind of like our collective mother. She's very caring, and she believes in the cause. And there's a reason why Ross is who he is. The fruit does not fall far from that tree. He got it somewhere, and I think he definitely got it from his mom, who is a warrior. She's a fighter. She knew she could never give up on her son, and for all the other sons and daughters and folks out there, dads and moms that are behind prison that don't deserve to be there, she just can't stop. So
Yeah.
we launched Mothers Against Cruel Sentencing just last week at the Bitcoin conference, at the Women in Bitcoin brunch, which I think is just so fitting for Lynn. She's not only the mother of like the guy who gave Bitcoin its first use case, but she's also like been thrust into this Bitcoin world. She's I think the oldest person to have minted an NFT that went like the highest grossing for like the old, I don't know, one of these, so it's very fitting that she launched her new organization at that brunch. And we're looking to highlight cases of people who deserve the same pardon that Ross got, that don't deserve to be in prison, and to shine a light on what's really happening. So many people just, people are in jail and they're almost discarded. It's almost like, well, too bad, so sad for you.
Yeah.
But a lot of these people are fathers and mothers and children who their family gets destroyed, their communities get destroyed, their lives are wasted. A lot of super intelligent people, people that could do so much good in society are just completely wasted. And of course, taxpayers have to cover the cost for this. So many reasons why this needed to happen. And I am so honored that I get to join her on another. I was a little, one side of my heart, I was like, oh, it's great, Ross is free. And then it's like, oh, I don't get to do this with Lynn anymore. So here we are. We're going to keep this thing going.
The fight continues. And I know that two names that are going to be on the lips of a lot of folks at PorcFest are Roger Ver, also known as Bitcoin Jesus, who came to many Free State Project events like the New Hampshire Liberty Forum in the early 2010s, and was introducing people to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and now is being persecuted by the federal government for they accused him of tax evasion when he did everything he could to try to be in compliance with the very, very vague tax laws. It's like, the federal government establishes, right, vague laws so that they can decide after the fact that they want to prosecute you, even if you've made every good faith effort to be in compliance with their laws. And they've gone after him for that. And of course, close to home for us in New Hampshire is Ian Freeman, who is also in federal custody for supposed crimes that were basically just cryptocurrency usage, and helping other people use cryptocurrency. So and those are just two names around the crypto sphere. So there are many more out there. I'm certain. So
we have a flyer that we'll be putting out at Freedom Fest and at PorcFest for Ian and several others. I believe there's 6 on that flyer, including Roger Ver. So yes, the crypto community has. And freedom community, I guess those two are intertwined, and we already have our own political prisoners, and those who are facing the possibility of becoming a political prisoner. Roger Ver is not yet charged. He's not yet been convicted, and he hasn't been sentenced. But yes, we have our very own, and those are cases that we are working on as well. I know a few months back, I went to a Republican National Gala with this dress where I put Roger Ver's face on the tail of my dress and paraded around because I think Republicans just don't know really what's happening. And that was one of those cases where, brought attention to him. Maybe not the best way possible, but I am known for those kind of wild and out there tactics. So I had a QR code with his website at freerogernow.org placed strategically in certain places where people were stopping me to scan it. Again,
on your shoulder?
Yeah, that's about it.
All right.
I'm thinking about it. I should probably bring that to PorcFest. I should find a way to, instead of attach it to a dress, to attach it to jeans or something, and walk around with my Free Roger cape. But yeah, it was. We have a lot of people in this country that don't deserve what's happening to them. A lot of authoritarianism, and our community. We're out there fighting for these people, and I love that about us.
Now let's back up a bit. I know that for folks who've been long-time viewers of this show, all the way back to episode 20, they know all about Ross Ulbricht. They know all about what happened here, but perhaps some do not. So can you kind of give us an overview? I suppose we talked about the arc, the arc that began in tragedy, that built a grassroots movement that eventually led to Ross's freedom after 11 and a half years in a cage. Could you give us the broad overview there? How would you describe the arc of what happened?
Yeah, so you have this pretty brilliant kid in his early to mid 20s, decided to, very libertarian. Let's just start at the beginning. Ross was raised very libertarian.
I noticed that the judge in his sentencing cited his dangerous libertarian ideology as why he needed to go away for so long.
He was a Ron Paul Revolution kid. He knocked on doors for Ron Paul. He was part of, I think it was Students for Liberty. So, I mean, we're talking about definitely one of us.
I think that's why it's so personal for so people, including myself, and that those
Absolutely.
of us who are in the Ron Paul Revolution, like, we look at that and we say that he could be, I mean, maybe he's smarter than some of us in terms of building what
definitely smarter than me.
what he built, but I think we could all see a bit of ourselves in him.
Absolutely. I mean, he is one of us. I mean, in every way, shape, or form. If we ever bought Bitcoin early in, if we believe in a free market, if we don't believe in the drug war, whatever reason that you want to, Ross is one of us. And yes, his Judge Catherine Forrest, at the time of sentencing. So the video that you played pretty much shows, very briefly, but it showed that Ross, so many things were not how most people envision the court system in America. We think that it's fair, it's just. So he was sentenced for crimes committed on the Silk Road that he didn't commit. He basically built a website very much like whoever built eBay, for example. If you buy or sell something on eBay that is illegal, it is not the creator of eBay's fault. It should be yours and yours alone. But Ross was charged for a lot of crimes that happened victimless crimes, but crimes that happened on the Silk Road, including they charged him with computer hacking, which he's not a computer hacker. I think those charges, for example, were some software that could hack computers were sold on the Silk Road. So a lot of like really bogus charges. And then of course there's the famous murder for hire that was never actually charged. It's just a government propaganda scheme that they put out to make Ross look really bad. And to this day, we have a lot of people like, well, what about the murder for hire charges? Well, what about America, where you have to be charged and convicted of a crime before we can say that you did that thing, right? So a lot of people also don't know that the two of the FBI agents on his case went to jail themselves for crimes associated with them investigating Ross and the Silk Road. So lots of nefarious stuff happened here. Like you said, the judge said that part of Ross hadn't left his ideology behind and that his libertarian ideology was very dangerous. Well, I'm a libertarian. Am I dangerous? You know, are you dangerous? Like, what about us is dangerous and who are we dangerous to? And I suspect that the answer is we're dangerous to the government because a lot of us are free thinkers. So Ross went to a cage for our free thinking capabilities.
Heaven knows what this judge would have had to say about, Thomas Jefferson and some of the radical libertarian founders of this country.
You're right. I mean, and the number one thing sold on the Silk Road was marijuana, because you have to put yourself back in the early 2010 phase. And marijuana was illegal all over the United States, pretty much, except for California. And today it's legal in 39 states in some way, shape, or form. So, for people to be like, oh, it's so evil, how dare he? Well, now it's pretty much legal what he was doing. Sure, there were other drugs sold, but I mean, I maybe he should have served a little bit of time. I can't bring myself to say that, but I understand people who think that. I just don't think a double life plus 40 years was an appropriate sentence, especially when the largest narco trafficker in the world, plus trafficker of humans, and Chapo Guzman got 1 life sentence.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I always think about it, and maybe some people could quibble about my characterization of things, but I always think about, there are moral vices and there are moral crimes, right? And a crime is when you violate someone else's rights, and a vice is when when consenting adults do something that maybe it harms themselves, and maybe we don't think that that's the smartest choice in the world. Maybe we don't like gambling or cannabis use or harder drug use, right? That can certainly be degenerate and kind of lead to people's harm in people's individual lives. And but government goes around labeling things as crimes that where no one's rights are violated, right? These victimless crimes where every party involved is a consenting adult, and no non-consenting person is harmed. And it seems that everything that they were up in arms about is basically that no real victim, except for, I don't know, I guess the Federal Reserve, as they lose their grip on monetary power in this country.
Yeah, and that's literally what this case, I believe, came down to, was Bitcoin. So one of the reasons that I think most of us think that Ross is this hero, beyond creating a free market website, is that the government got 0 tax dollars from this website. And so, because you had to buy and sell on Bitcoin, and back then it wasn't a KYC. The government didn't know who was purchasing it. It was, it was very anonymous at the time. And so, I think that that's one of the greatest things that he's done, is there was no taxes paid on any part of that transaction. And I don't know, it just, I might, I'm sure to some people that might rub them the wrong way, but to me, I feel like that just gets me extra tingly inside.
You've managed to avoid getting stolen from, then, That's something to be celebrated.
Absolutely. So yeah, Ross ended up in a cage for 11 and a half years. And this past January 21st, the day after inauguration, President Donald Trump pardoned Ross. We were expecting a commutation, which is when they say you served your time, you're free to go. But Trump apparently said, I love pardoning people, and just outright pardoned Ross, which is pretty much unheard of. Generally, you get a commutation first and then he has to pardon you later on. And in this case, Ross is now as if he had never served prison. He gets all of his rights back, can vote, and can still defend himself. So I have to say, I'm very pleasantly surprised with the outcome.
What has your experience been at PorcFest the last couple of years? I know you said you've been coming for the last 3 years. So I know this movement has been building, and support specifically at PorcFest and the Free State community has been building for, over the last decade. But what was your experience at PorcFest as you were talking to people about the Free Ross movement?
Oh my God, it's been nothing but support, especially for Lynn and and for Ross, of course. But for all of us, I think if not for Lynn, we wouldn't probably remember Ross. I knew about Ross's case. I had been on the Silk Road to see what it looked like early in, because I didn't do drugs then. Not that I do drugs now, but I didn't do drugs then. And I wanted to see what this thing was all about. So I logged on and I was really impressed. So I've known about Ross forever, but I didn't really get involved until I met his mother. And I think that's the case for pretty much everybody there. We all love her. She's one of us, again, she's like the mom.
I know my mom is coming to PorcFest and she's looking forward to meeting Ross's mom. So
oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to say hi to your mom.
Yeah.
So, what's the experience like? Well, everybody's been super kind. Even the song you played on the video you just played, that's Jordan Page's Free Ross song. I mean, it is such a good song. Going to PorcFest is like coming home, and you get to hear some music, and you get to hang out with cool people, and you get to experience this thing. We get to have a community of freedom people. And so my experience the first time I went was because of Lynn, was because of this movement. And I'm still going to keep coming back. Like, it's awesome. I especially love, I've told you before, I love when you get on stage, when you are the judge of what is it, the soapbox idol?
Yeah.
Oh my
I'm going to
God,
be the host this year.
There's going to be what?
I'm going to be the host this year.
Ooh.
So I won't be a judge. I'll be hosting it, which and I've got to recruit some judges. So I still have to get that worked out. Maybe get a celebrity or two to be a celebrity judge for that.
I don't know. I think you're so good at being a judge, though. Oh man. Okay, I'll have to accept you as a host. But honestly, it was good.
Who knows? Yeah. That'll be on Saturday. I don't know. Maybe who knows? Maybe Ross Ulbricht will be a judge. We'll see.
Ooh.
I'm not actually promising that, everyone. Anyway, don't expect Ross Ulbricht to be a judge. I'm just saying.
Well, it would be cool if he was. It definitely would be cool. But it's such a great place to be, and the community's been fantastic, and everybody's pitched in what they can. Again, Jordan Page making music for Ross, or Rich and Lisa Grove. They feed Lynn, they take care of her, they always make sure. I mean, it is a family. There's no other way. I know I keep saying it, but it's just, there's no other way to describe PorcFest other than sincerely, it's a family. We all care about Ian, who's also one of our Free Ian campaign. We care about Roger Ver. We care about people. Like you were talking about earlier, the children. I love seeing the kids play the zombie game at Early Inn with their swords that they make. I mean, it's just, what's not to love? If you're a libertarian, I don't know anybody that wouldn't love coming.
Yeah, in fact, I would suggest if you're a libertarian and you haven't been to PorcFest, are you even a real libertarian? Everyone's got a litmus test. That's my litmus test.
I mean, okay, except for the people who can't afford it. We're not, come on. We have to be like, if you can't afford it, you're still libertarian. But if you can afford it, what's your excuse? Seriously.
And if you can't afford it, then I don't know, say something. And I'm sure folks in the community are happy to, particularly if you have any inclination, you might maybe one day want to move to New Hampshire. We'd love to get people there. So, and of course, if you can't afford it, people can use my discount code for 10% off. Granite Gulch.
That is a mouthful, I just want to say.
Granite Gulch, GG. Just Gulch. It's Gulch, but in the Granite State. So, you just came from the Bitcoin conference where Ross gave his first public remarks, and I know the thing that people keep coming away and telling me what they loved about his remarks were the three things: freedom, decentralization, and unity. Three things we need to focus on. That sometimes in the liberty movement we're good. We tend to love freedom. There's often disagreements about what that actually means, but we all agreed there. I think we have a general consensus that decentralization over centralization is how you get more freedom, where centralization always leads to power concentration and less freedom, as we've certainly seen in our monetary system, and which Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies seek to challenge. Unity is not something we've always been very good at. We're always kind of like, as I joked, we always have our own litmus test. Who's the real libertarian? Who's not, right? Until we divide, till there's only one. And so unity is not something we're always good at. Well, I guess, but I thought those were three great values to focus on. What were your takeaways from the Bitcoin conference and Ross Ulbricht's presence there?
So I think the Bitcoin conference is this huge conference that there's way too much. I didn't see hardly any of the speakers. I didn't go to any of the talks. We were launching Max at this thing. So I saw a few, and I saw Ross's from right next to the stage. So that to me was my big takeaway. If I know that 20 years from now, I'll look back and I'll still remember that conference and that moment. To me, this conference was about Ross, was about, again, the prodigal son coming home type of thing. So, the Bitcoin community is not like Freedom Fest at all. The first time, and I've been to a Bitcoin conference before in Miami, now then Nashville, and now Las Vegas. This is, I think, my 5th year, I want to say. And the thing about Bitcoin, when I first went to the first conference, I was like, these are my people. These are my libertarians, right? If you embrace Bitcoin, it's because you're a libertarian, you're an anarchist. You understand the decentralization part. You understand
That's how it began.
Right. And I was like, you can't possibly come to this conference and not be one of us. And I learned early in that financial incentives you don't necessarily have to have the ideology. So it is not what, it's just not what you think of when I go to the Free State, it's ideology. It's we all believe in these things. So Bitcoin is very transactional. It's a different animal. You can't compare. It's like comparing your children. You can't do this. You can't compare them. But it is definitely a different feel. It is, it's all about Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, I know, and I know plenty of libertarians who do go, but I know that, right? It's like the reason why Bitcoin in the early years took root in New Hampshire and maybe a few other places, but New Hampshire was really big, was because libertarians, I think Ross talked about taking Bitcoin from 0 to 1. Yeah. All right. And now Bitcoin's gone from 1 to like 100,000. but it's in that place where we were in that space from going to 0 to 1. It was the libertarians who were the earliest adopters because of the potential of challenging central banking and the Federal Reserve and the libertarian purpose of it. I think there was always an understanding that, like, once this gets off the ground and demonstrates proof of concept, for it to function as a real challenge to anything, it can't be just libertarians, but libertarians like Ross and others really helped demonstrate the proof of concept. And now there's a lot of people who see, hey, you can make a lot of money on this, and you could be a total Democrat statist and still
I don't know that it's so much Democrat status. I think that, without getting too far into the weeds, one of the reasons that one of our other political prisoners, Roger Ver, is potentially facing a cage is why Bitcoin is no longer what we libertarians believed it was going to be, which is, so for those that don't know, Roger Ver wrote a book called Hijacking Bitcoin. And Bitcoin now is a store of value. It's digital gold. It's no longer what the early adopters believed it would be, which is the taking over of all the financial systems. And you have to, again, remember when Bitcoin was launched, we didn't have Zelle, we didn't have, we didn't have Venmo. You couldn't just, easily, quickly send anybody money. So that was one of the purposes of Bitcoin. Today, its purpose is a little different. We're all to the moon. Let's go. Let's get rid of this fiat and use this more decentralized coin. But yeah, it's definitely changed. It's definitely a different animal. And I do love the Bitcoin conference. It's a good time. You get to learn a lot. You get to interact with a lot of great people, but I'm on the fence on this one. This is, I think I know too much. When you reach that point where you're very familiar. So I love what Bitcoin's doing, but it's just not my freedom coin. It's just not what I thought it was
Yeah.
going to be. In 2017, Bitcoin was the number one. Venezuela was the number one country using Bitcoin, and that to me just signified what we could do with Bitcoin. And today they aren't able to use it that way. So the freedom aspect of it's lacking a little bit. I think we need another Bitcoin revolution here.
Well,
But
I know at PorcFest this year, there's going to be a lot of talk about privacy coins like Monero, and in fact, some of our biggest sponsors are from the alternate non-Bitcoin cryptocurrency community, who I think people recognize that there are a lot of alternate coins out there that are scams and centralized in all the wrong ways, but there are others that are seeking to improve upon things. I'm a bit of an agnostic on the question. I don't feel like I've researched well enough to take a side in the what do they call it, the block size wars? Is that it?
Wars?
Block size wars.
Which basically, first of all, I have to recommend Roger's book. It is, if you want to know what that war is about, and if you're involved in Bitcoin, you should read it. Just like, the Bitcoin Standard is like a must read. There's books in this space that you just kind of have to know what's going on. But the block size wars, which is basically how many blocks, how much information can be processed at one time. So every block, I think it's every 10 minutes on Bitcoin, and there's a limited number of slots, which makes it really expensive when a lot of people are trying to transact at the same time, because again, as libertarians, we understand supply and demand. So when there's little supply and a lot of demand, price goes up. And that's basically where we are. People who wanted block sizes to grow thought that Satoshi Nakamoto in his white paper was saying this is how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to grow. And Roger Ver makes a case for Bitcoin having been hijacked, and potentially the U.S. government or whoever wanted Bitcoin to stay non-usable or not as usable. Let's just say
as a medium of exchange, right?
As a medium of exchange, if you want to make sure that you control that, what would you do? Well, you would limit block size. So I think it's a very compelling argument, and I definitely see it the way Roger Ver sees it.
Yeah, and that's fair. And again, I haven't made a decision for myself on the whole thing. I do want to play devil's advocate a little bit. I've heard some people argue that, right, the price is still going up. It's not stabilized. Right now, the demand really is for something that's a store of value. And as we get to a certain point, the technology of things like the Lightning Network exists. And at a certain point, you can use these other things, what do they call them? Right. There's the base layer of the blockchain, and then things like Lightning exist on a subsequent layer that kind of, reduces friction in transactions. So I don't know how it'll all work out in the end. I don't know
how it's going to work out either, but I think that, essentially the idea of Bitcoin was all should have happened on one layer. I mean, listen, what would I know, right? Bitcoin is now over $100,000. And if you were early enough to Bitcoin and you were able to buy for a few pennies and you held on to it for this whole time, God bless you.
You probably have Ross Ulbricht to thank for that.
You're right. And you probably have a lot of money too. So, it certainly paid off for a lot of people.
So after you're done donating to Ross Ulbricht, remember that the Free State Project helped out with that too in the early years. And we are always taking more Porcupine patrons. So
Absolutely. And, Ross just got a really big donation. It was all over the news this week.
I saw
After
that.
the Bitcoin conference, somebody donated 30 Bitcoin to him, which is quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, 300 Bitcoin. My apologies.
Oh, well, that's exciting. And obviously, Ross cannot get back the 11 and a half years that were taken from him. But it's very nice that people are chipping in to help him make up for lost time. And I heard that someone even donated a banana. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What's
At
this
his
about,
lunch.
Martha?
Yeah, at his luncheon, one of the guests presented him with that infamous banana from what is this? And it happens here in Miami. I have it on the tip of my tongue. What is this art festival? Art Basel. Sorry, Art Basel. So that banana that they stuck on the wall and it sold for a few million. They donated it to Ross. So I'm like mind blown that I didn't even know you could give that to somebody. But yes, apparently.
So I think I saw Ross say now that because this was gifted to him, like it also bestows upon him the rights to duct tape any banana to a wall, and that makes it the banana, right? So like he's got a certain artistic power that's been imbued with him now. He's the banana man.
He's the banana man. I mean, this is so random. Like, and I remember at the luncheon, him being presented with this, and it was just kind of like, did somebody just stick a banana to a thing? Like, how does this work? But apparently, it's very valuable, and so people just want to
Yeah.
give Ross things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Ross gave a lot of people a lot of things, and over 11 and a half years, kind of the seeds that he helped plant really grew into amazing investments for a lot of people. So it's nice to see some karmic justice being done, and Ross being lifted up and supported in that way. We're going to be coming to the end of the hour in a little bit, Martha. I want to give you first of all, well, let me ask you first, and then we'll wrap up. What's we've talked about Ross and all that. Beyond all that, what's one thing you're looking forward to at PorcFest this year?
Oh my gosh, so many. Well, first and foremost, seeing all my friends, that's always the best part. The campfire, I think, is kind of my favorite thing. At the end of the night, every night, there's this big bonfire in the middle of the campground. And yeah, I love that part. You get to hang out with people and kind of, shoot the breeze, talk, listen to music, whatever that thing is for that night. And it's really cool. I love that part about it.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Any final words you want to share with folks before we wrap up?
If they're so inclined, if they want to help us out, free people out of a cage, I would love for them to join us at Mothers Against Cruel Sentencing.org. Using everything that Lynn created to free her son to now help free other people. And like anything, this is a movement. We can't do it alone. We don't want to do it alone, but we can't do it alone. And so, if anybody's inclined to help us out, we'd love to have them on board. And if you don't have the time or the energy or the treasure or we are accepting donations. I know that Ross got a big donation, and we're hoping that some of that comes Lynn's way. But in the meantime, we definitely need a lot of help. There are a lot of people. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are in prison who do not deserve to be there, especially for victimless crimes. And come join us. Help us out.
All right. Thank you, Martha. Thank you for joining us on the Porcupine Report, and we'll see you at PorcFest.
Thanks.
That is the show. Again, 12 days till PorcFest. What are you doing? 12 days out. Do you have your tickets yet? It's not too late. Go to porcfest.com, pork with a C, not a K. Grab your tickets. Join us for so many great speakers, such great community, and of course, to welcome home Ross Ulbricht. I will see you there 12 days away. Let's see, what else? Use the discount code Granite Gulch, 10% off. Let's do it. And furthermore, my opinion is the Federal Reserve should be destroyed.